Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name is AJ. I'm here to take you through a few issues happening around Russia, Ukraine, rest of Europe. So without further ado, let's carry on with the show without wasting any more time. So this is the biggest story over this month, I believe, or maybe last few months. Ukraine blocks Russia's gas flow to Europe. So it's a huge story because I don't think anybody expected this. We thought that the Europeans would somehow block the Russian gas, but they didn't. They needed it for their industry, especially Germany. Russia also wanted the payments to be in rubles, and a lot of the countries agreed to that request, except Poland and Bulgaria, and as a result, Russia cut off their gas, and rightly so. So you can see there's a lot of toing and froing going on between the Europeans and between the Russians. A game of chess at times. People were clamoring Russia to cut all gas altogether to the EU, but Putin refused to do that because obviously he's still making money right now, and those pipelines to China and also to India are still being built, so that's going to take a number of years, so they don't really have an alternative at the moment. So this way it basically suits both parties. Russia makes money while Europeans get the gas, and it's very much a game of chess being played. So Europeans can't cancel the gas until they find alternative sources, and Russia can't cancel it until they find alternative sources to sell the gas to. So it's basically who blinks first. And Russia is fast-tracking some pipelines to China. They're building 3 pipelines to China at the moment. And they're working towards another pipeline towards India, which is going to go through Afghanistan, Pakistan and India. So Russia is fast-tracking those projects. But however, that was going to take probably about 5-6 years. It's not an easy job. Then you have the Europeans clamoring on getting more gas supplies from Qatar and other places from around the world, but it's not easy. They've signed some deals with America, providing them with LNG, much more expensive LNG gas to Europe. And again, not much thought has gone into it because you need a lot of LNG tankers to transport these goods. You need LNG terminals as well. They need to be built. So a lot of infrastructure is yet to be built for LNG. Then you have the Ukrainians, especially Zelensky, who basically has been clamoring the Europeans to sanction Russia, sanction the oil, sanction the gas. And obviously this has failed. The Europeans are still continuing to buy gas, continuing to buy oil as of today. They are having discussions to ban it, but obviously it hasn't happened yet. So Zelensky has been very, very frustrated with Europeans. So what has it done? Basically, he's cut off the Russian gas flow to Europe. So this must have been something that him and maybe Nancy Pelosi had a chat about, because Nancy Pelosi only turned up in Ukraine only a few days ago, and he must have mentioned something then. I don't think he would have done this without USA approval. So it looks like US gave the approval for him to do this. The Europeans so far have said nothing. Only Germany has confirmed that this was the case. As you can see here, Germany signals massive drop in Russian gas supply. So Europeans have confirmed that this has happened, but they haven't really said anything about Zelensky or Ukraine, and they probably won't because they are puppets, obviously, to the United States. Do you remember the times when Europe was good and Europe made Airbus, obviously, and Airbus started selling all over the world, lots of countries buying Airbus, including China. And what did America do? Obviously, Airbus was cutting into profits of Boeing. So they placed sanctions on the Europeans, on the Airbus company. So you can see, America is doing everything they can to keep Europeans down. Because if they keep Europeans down, Americans make the profit. So Americans make profit by selling LNG to Europe. They make profit by selling weapons to Europe. And if they keep Europeans down, if they keep Europeans' economy down, Europe will always need America then. Europe cannot stand for itself. If Europe stays down, it will always need America. So that's what America's thinking, really. So you must admit, this is a kind of a sneaky move by Ukraine. And nobody expected this. I don't think anybody expected Ukraine to do this. But Russia did expect Ukraine to do this at some point. This is why Russia built Nord Stream 2, a direct pipeline straight to Germany, because they know that Ukraine has been siphoning and stealing a lot of gas going into Europe, and they are also charging for transit fees as well. So this is why they wanted Nord Stream 2 to completely bypass Europe, and this is why America's got Nord Stream 2 banned because of this particular reason. And if you look at the map, the line which got cancelled is this one, the Sokronova. Sorry if I can't pronounce it correctly. And if you follow this line, you can see it actually heads right into Hungary. And Hungary is one of those friendly nations to Russia. And Hungary is one of the nations which is causing a lot of trouble for Europe. They said they're not going to agree to having bans in oil. They're one of the first countries to pay in rubles, for example. So they're a very friendly country towards Russia. And they're a bit of a pain as well to the rest of Europe. But you can see why they shut this pipeline down. I mean, they said that, Ukraine has said that they shut it down because they have no control over it. But at no point did Russia stop the gas flowing into Europe. And because this pipeline goes straight into Hungary, I think that probably had something to do with it. The Ukrainians looked at Hungary and thought, you know what, let's shut off this pipeline and stop these supplies going into Hungary. And I think they had probably that in mind. And if you look at how this map of network of pipes go around Ukraine, this pipeline is basically stops at this junction. And there's a southern pipeline goes into Odessa, and there's a northern one goes into Kiev. So what probably they have been doing, because of this war, obviously Ukraine's running out of gas, running out of oil. A lot of oil depots and gas depots have been blown up by Russia. So I think what Ukraine has been doing, they have been siphoning off a lot of the gas, and especially from this junction here, the junction near Kharkiv. And this is a very important junction, because what that means is Ukraine has probably been siphoning off a lot of gas that's due for Hungary and taking it via Kiev or taking it via Odessa instead. So recently Russia has actually taken over this area near Kharkiv, and this is why Ukraine feels they can't control this pipeline anymore. They can't siphon off gas into Kiev. They can't siphon off gas into Odessa. So what they've said is they're going to be using this pipeline instead, the Sudza. And they said, Russia can basically direct all gas through this pipeline in the north, which Ukraine still controls. However, for Russia to build pipelines from Sudza all the way to Sokharnova, it's going to take years. I mean, this is a long distance. We're talking about twice maybe the size of UK. So it's not an easy job to move gas from this area all the way to Sudza. So it's pretty much impossible. That's what Gazprom said. And you can see how Sudza is working as well. So Sudza goes down, and you can see this junction here. So this junction, there's a southern junction which goes into Odessa, and then you've got one going into Kiev, and the other one goes into Slovakia. So Ukraine controls this area, obviously, and this is why they feel that they can siphon off gas into Kiev, they can siphon off gas into Odessa, and they can pretty much take as much gas from this pipeline as possible. And this is what Russia wanted to avoid, really. So they wanted to avoid Ukraine altogether, and this is obviously why they wanted to build the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. So I suspect this is what Ukraine is doing at the moment. They're siphoning off or stealing a lot of the gas from Sudza, and and the Europeans got themselves to blame for it because they put themselves in this position. They thought the Russians would stop the gas, but they never ever looked at Ukraine doing it. And guess what? Ukraine has done it. So one of the first countries this is going to massively impact is Germany, and you can see the import volumes have dropped almost 25%, and 25% is a lot. If you're thinking about saving up this gas for the winter, there is no way in hell Germany can save up with 25% loss happening. You can see Germany industry shutting down over the next few months to save on the gas, and this is severely going to impact Germany. And you got to say serves them right, because here they are destroying the economy, destroying the lives of German people, and for what? For Ukrainians, for Nazis, for Azovs. Seriously, and Ukraine is not even part of Europe. And you got to say Germany put themselves in this position. And then you have Ukrainians, even Zelensky, banning the German president from entering Ukraine and saying all sorts of nasty things to him on the social media. And yet, you got German Scholz kissing the ring of Zelensky still. How embarrassed do you need to be? How ridiculous do you need to be? I mean, Germany has been completely embarrassed by Ukraine, and at the expense of their own people. And you have German leaders on their knees kissing the ring of Zelensky. Isn't it embarrassing? It is so embarrassing. So talking about Europe, I can't believe they are falling the biggest scam of the century. The United States are scamming them. Majorly scamming them, and they just can't see it. They're just like headless fools, headless chickens running around. Doesn't the EU understand how the oil market and the gas market work? If you're going to sanction Russia, which is your biggest supplier, what do you think is going to happen to the oil and gas that you get from the other countries? It's going to go up in price. The LNG they get from America is 10, 11 times more expensive than the pipeline gas coming from Russia. Then you got, if you want to get gas from Qatar, for example, you got to look at the shipment costs. And with the expensive oil prices at the moment, the shipment costs have become 200% more expensive to ship goods than it was a few years ago. They don't look at these things, and these things are just going to cause the oil markets to rise up even more, the gas markets to rise up even more, and you will find that Russia ends up making more money because the oil prices have gone up, the gas prices have gone up, and Russia can sell to other markets such as China, India. There's a huge market in Asia as well. Asia is the next up and coming thing. At the moment, you have countries like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. These countries are on their way up. You just have to look at the economies. Asia is the next up and coming part of the world, and all of the industries are moving to Asia now. So if Russia just supplies to Asia alone, it doesn't need Europe. So Europe will have to basically beg for oil and gas over the next few years from countries. And their economy is going to go down, their industry is going to go down. They're going to suffer stagflation for a long time. They just don't understand this. Apart from Hungary's Orban, rest of them are just damn fools. They can't see how they are destroying their own economy just by pandering to Ukraine. I mean, this woman, you can see this woman, Ursula, and you can see from her page, she's got a flag of Ukraine and a flag of Euro next to each other. And her last statement is, Europe is a dream and it shines brightest in the eyes of all those young Ukrainians who have found a refuge in Europe. The future is Europe is your future. The future of our democracy is the future of your democracy. What a load of crap. Never heard so much baloney in all my life. So you can see this woman, she's obsessed with Ukraine, and Ukraine is not even part of Europe. So why is she bothered about Ukraine? I just don't understand. Europe has got its own interests. Europe has his own problems, and you've got the problems with inflation, problems with the economy, so many issues she has to deal with. But no, she's completely obsessed with Ukraine, completely. And when you have a leader completely obsessed with Ukraine, she's not going to look after her own interests, which is Europe. She's not going to look after it. So where's the comment about Ukrainians shutting off the gas? You're not going to see anything like that. You're not going to see any news like that. She, along with the rest of the European leaders, or most of them anyway, they're forgetting the number one rules. You got to look after your own first. You got to look after your own people, your own interests, your own businesses first, before you start venturing out into Ukraine, which is not even part of Europe. This woman is completely obsessed with Europe and is clouding her judgment into making decisions. And she's spending her whole time going around the world, getting people to sanction Russia, getting people to send money and weapons to Ukraine. That's what she's doing. Well, she should be at home looking at the economy, looking at the interest rates, looking at the taxes, looking at inflation. She needs to look at Europe and see how she can fix Europe first. This woman, I just don't understand what the hell she's doing. So talking about someone who's not looking after their own, we have Boris Johnson himself. And the Queen has said, we have a huge issue at the moment with the cost of living crisis and stuff. And the Prime Minister says, we can't spend our way out of trouble, said the Prime Minister. So what has Britain done when we had COVID? Obviously, they spent their way out of trouble. They were what you would call money printing, the same as America did. They were printing money. Quantitative easing, they call it. And then you have Boris spending or giving Ukraine emergency funds. Billions and billions of emergency funds they're sending to Ukraine. And Britain is having huge issues at the moment, huge issues. And you can see here, Britain's facing real food poverty, supermarket giant warns. And then you have this one as well. Millions of UK homes face no heat this winter, Power Chief warns. So there's a lot of problems in UK. And what does Boris do? He flies off all the way to Sweden and Finland. And he says if Russia attacks you, Boris Johnson will help Finland and Sweden. So he's out there warmongering, pissing off the Russians. Why can't he just stay at home and sort out the issues at home? Why does he have to antagonize Russia even more? And how is Britain going to help Sweden and Finland if Russia attacks? What's Britain going to do? Britain is like a small fish compared to Russia. All Russia has to do is send a few nuclear weapons towards UK, and UK can't do anything. It's like this guy has no clue. Don't ask me what this woman is doing. She thinks she's in the Marvel X-Men or something. Look at her trying to use her powers. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so embarrassing to be a British citizen at the moment. So embarrassing. I want to also talk about Elon Musk as well. And as you know, Elon Musk has got Starlink satellites flying around in in space at the moment. And they provide really good internet if anyone has access to them, but they're very expensive. So have you ever thought how these Azov NAZI's militants are sending, videos of themselves out on the internet? You would think that Russia would somehow block the internet and stop these videos being sent out. So you have a lot of these Azovs basically talking about, bragging about, that they are survivors, there's hostages, and basically they're sending stuff out on the internet. You would think, how do they do that when they're being absolutely bombarded in the Mariupol? And you would think that Russia would completely cut internet off from that area as well, stop them from accessing outside world. But no, they're still accessing it. But then there's a lot of reports coming out that a lot of Ukrainian soldiers are using Starlink, which is Elon Musk satellites. And these satellites, Russia has not been able to block. And Musk has recently been bragging about it as well. And I wouldn't put it past him, actually. I wouldn't put past all of these Azovs basically accessing Elon Musk satellites and sending out propaganda and stuff like that out on the internet. So I wouldn't put it past them. So I just want to say, what the hell is Musk playing at? You know, he's basically playing with fire at the moment, because China's going to look at this and Russia's going to look at this, and they're going to jointly work on something to block the Starlink satellites or jam them. Probably right now they haven't found a way to jam them because they don't find Musk as a security threat. But if this carries on, Russia will be looking at Musk satellites and think, you know what, we need to find a way to take them out. And China will be doing the same thing. Because if there's a war in the Taiwanese Strait and China cuts off all internet from Taiwan, and then Musk starts, sending out signals using a Starlink into Taiwan, still giving them access to... And when you have access to internet, you have access to communications, and you have access to intelligence. So you don't want that. So China will be looking at this, Russia will be looking at this, and Elon Musk is playing with fire, because if he carries on like this, Tesla would be kicked out of China, and I can guarantee you China would do that. Tesla is not needed in China. China has got massive EV companies in there. You have BYD, you have Geely, you have NIO, you have XPeng, you have so many great Chinese EV companies, and they find Tesla as a competitor, and they are taking a lot of Tesla market share, EV market share from China as well. And if Musk keeps carrying on like this, getting involved in politics, China would definitely kick Tesla out of China. And Tesla, make the massive profit from China itself. Their biggest market is China. So if Tesla is kicked out of China, they have huge issues. They have a huge factory in Shanghai, and they're building another gigafactory in Shanghai as well. So Tesla will be hugely affected if Musk carries on like this. So then you have Musk actually bragging as well. So you can see from this statement, Elon Musk has said on Tuesday that his Starlink system was far ahead of the competition when it comes to defeating alleged Russian cyber attacks. So basically he's inviting cyber attacks on his Starlink systems. And I wouldn't put it past Russia or China finding a way around it. And him bragging like this, he's basically asking for trouble, to be honest. It's one thing to keep quiet, and it's another thing to start bragging about it. I'm pretty sure that they are looking for ways to take these satellites down as well. And I'm sure Russia and China will be working together on this. Then you have the US House approving 40 billion in Ukrainian aid. This was 33 billion a few days ago, and suddenly it's jumped up to 40 billion, and absolutely ridiculous, especially the way the American economy is as well. Imagine what 40 billion would have done for American homeless, or you would have basically sorted out America's healthcare systems. You would have got rid of every single homeless person out in the street. This money will eventually come into Ukraine, and it will siphon out and eventually end up in their hands or the pockets of defense contractors and the senates who have got shares in these defense contractors. And it's absolutely sickening, and how Americans are letting Biden get away with this. Absolutely sickening. And then when you have infrastructure bills, and everyone's fighting over it, they're saying, no, we're not going to approve. But when it comes to military aid or anything like this, everyone puts their hands up. And obviously, there is a small minority who have voted for this not to go ahead. But it's a very, very small minority. And a few critics like Andy Biggs, and he says, we can't help Ukraine by spending money we don't have. Exactly my point. Where is America going to get this 40 billion from, especially with all of these issues America's having right now? It's absolutely ridiculous. And the same for UK, same for Europe. Absolutely ridiculous. I want to talk about this article as well. And this article basically said that Ukraine's having heavy losses when trying to take back Snake Island. And they're talking about Kiev has lost 30 drones, 14 aircrafts, 3 ships in a senseless PR action to retake the island. So, yeah, it is pretty much senseless, to be honest. And, you know, it's not just Snake Island, it's all over Ukraine. You got hundreds and hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers dying in Donbass, and these are supposed to be the most well-trained soldiers in Ukraine. And you've got some of the best soldiers in Mariupol dying hundreds per day as well, and most of them are trapped with no food or water, not surrendering. And then you have Russia throwing lots of airstrikes and long-range missile strikes in Odessa and other places around Ukraine as well. Ukraine is getting battered. Absolutely battered. But when you read the Western news, they're saying either it's a stalemate or you see Russia is losing, Ukraine is winning. They are absolutely deluded, you know. And Ukraine is losing young men, and these young men could have been Ukraine's future. And when you have all of these young men dying in the battlefields, who have you got left? You have older men like 40, 50-year-olds who are pushed into battle. And I wouldn't be surprised if all of these 40, 50-year-olds were pushed into taking out Snake Island. Because some of the best troops that Ukraine has got, they're trapped in Donbass or they're trapped in Mariupol. And those are supposed to be the best soldiers that Ukraine has got. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ukraine said to all of these 40, 50-year-olds and a few mercenaries, they said, look, we've got these weapons now from America. Let's hit Snake Island. Let's take over the island. Let's kill many Russians as possible. Let's use American intelligence. And it's completely failed. Completely failed. They just went to their doom. These soldiers who are not equipped to be trained with the right equipment, probably they don't have the intelligence, they don't have the wit, they don't have the fitness, they don't have the training, and they're just sending them to their doom. And the same with the rest of Ukraine. Zelensky is in his little office, you know, basically taking that white powder up his nose. He doesn't really care about how many people die in Ukraine. You know, if Ukraine lose, he's got a passport to UK. He can live in UK for the rest of his life as an exile. He'll be happy with billions in his bank. You know, it's just ridiculous how he's just sacrificing every soldier in Ukraine for this needless war. You know, this war could have been avoided from day one. He decided to go ahead with it and sacrifice all of these Ukrainians, poor Ukrainians. Don't forget all of these millions of refugees heading out to Europe. They're not going to come back. They won't have a place to come back. If Russia takes all of eastern Ukraine and all of southern Ukraine, these refugees will be like, sorry, I don't have a house anymore. Russia's taken over my area, my home. I've got nowhere to go back. So these Ukrainians are not going to go back. And these Ukrainians in Europe, they are privileged. They're given free homes, free healthcare, free benefits. Everywhere they go, they say, "Oh, I'm a Ukrainian. Please help me." And people are obliged to help them. And they're not going to go back. You have mainly women and children going abroad to Europe, and a lot of these women and children, you know, they'll find partners, they'll get married, they'll have more kids. They'll end up staying in those European countries. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous how Ukraine is being destroyed, all because of Zelensky. And he's such a puppet. And Americans are sitting far away in America, just looking at Ukraine and using Ukraine as a proxy war. Even they admitted it. You have Lloyd Austin, you have Nancy Pelosi saying, we will fight Russia till every drop of Ukrainian blood. Well, not quite in those words, but his actual words were the fact that he wants to see Russia weakened, and he's using this proxy war to weaken Russia as much as possible. Same with Nancy Pelosi. She's talking about we will win this war. It's absolutely ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I just feel sorry for these needless Ukrainian lives dying for a hopeless cause. Dying for Nancy Pelosi, dying for Biden, dying for Lloyd Austin, dying for Boris, and most of all, dying for the puppet Zelensky, the comedian who wears high heels. Absolutely sickening, absolutely sickening. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to comment on the video. I love reading your comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe as well. And if you want to join me and help me out, you can join my Patreon or buy me a coffee. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon.